There is a secret key under my desk. Please promise me you won't tell anyone, not even David.
Sorry for your loss. I've been meaning to tell you this. I want a divorce.
A divorce? While I'm grieving? How could you do this to me?
After her mom, who was a secret trillionaire, died, her husband divorced her to marry his mistress, leaving her shattered and alone. What she found hidden in her mother's storage unit 3 months later would destroy them both in ways they never saw coming. What happened next will make you question everything you thought you knew about love, loss, hidden power, and the cost of betraying the wrong woman. Viewers, before we begin, I need you to do something. If you love stories about justice, secrets, and people getting exactly what they deserve, hit that subscribe button right now. Trust me, you'll want to follow this channel. Drop a like on this video. It genuinely helps. And tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Chicago, Miami, UK. I want to know who's here. Now let's get into this, because what's about to unfold is unforgettable. The oncology ward at St. Catherine's Medical Center smelled like disinfectant and fear. Sophia Chen sat in a plastic chair beside her mother's bed, her eyes fixed on the monitor, displaying vitals that grew weaker by the hour. The IV drip made a soft rhythmic click. Someone's shoes squeaked in the hallway outside. The world had shrunk to this room, this moment, this slow and terrible goodbye. Her mother, June Chen, had been diagnosed 4 months ago. Pancreatic cancer. Stage 4. The doctors had been kind but clear. There was no fighting this. Only time, and now. That time was running out. Sophia's phone vibrated in her lap. A text from her husband, David. Working late. Client dinner ran long. Don't wait up. She stared at the message. No, how is she? No, do you need me? Just another excuse. In a long line of excuses that had started months ago, she didn't respond. She set the phone face down on the nightstand and reached for her mother's hand. It felt small, the skin papery and cool. Mama, she whispered, her voice cracking. I'm here. June's eyes opened slowly, struggling to focus. Her lips moved, forming words that barely had sound. Sophie, storage unit. Sophia leaned closer. Don't worry about that now. Just rest. Her mother's grip tightened with surprising strength. Listen to me. Unit 237, North Valley Storage. Key is in my desk, bottom drawer, taped underneath. Mama, please. Promise me. June's voice cracked. Promise you'll go. Don't tell David. Don't tell anyone. Just you. Sophia's chest tightened. I promise. June's eyes softened, a faint smile touching her lips. You're stronger than you think, baby girl. When they show you who they are, believe them. Mama, I love you. So much. The monitors began their terrible song. Nurses rushed in. Sophia was gently moved aside as they worked, their movements efficient and urgent. But Sophia could feel it. The way you feel a door closing in an empty house. The way you know, before anyone says the words. At 2:14 a.m., June Chen, age 61, was pronounced dead. Sophia stood in the parking lot afterward, rain soaking through her jacket. The world continued around her, cars pulling in and out, ambulances arriving, people living and dying. But she felt separate from it all, like she was watching through glass. Her phone rang. David. Hey, he said when she answered. Just saw your text. She's gone? Yes. I'm sorry, babe. That's rough. That's rough. As if her mother's death was a bad day at the office. As if 61 years of life could be summed up in 2 words. I'm on my way home, Sophia said quietly. Actually, I'm staying at the office tonight. Big presentation tomorrow. I'll see you in the morning. Okay? The line went dead. Sophia drove home through empty streets, her hands gripping the wheel, her mind numb. When she pulled into the driveway of their suburban townhouse, the lights were off. David's car wasn't there. She walked inside, dropped her keys on the counter and stood in the dark kitchen for a long time, listening to the silence. The funeral was held on a grey Saturday at Morningside Chapel. The pews were half full. Her mother's co-workers from the library where she'd worked for 30 years, a few neighbors, some distant cousins Sophia barely recognized. David sat beside her in a dark suit, checking his watch periodically. He'd shown up late, slipping into the pew just as the service began. The pastor spoke about June's kindness, her love of books, her quiet generosity. People approached afterward with condolences. She was such a lovely woman. You were lucky to have her. If there's anything we can do. Sophia nodded and thanked them, the words automatic. As the crowd thinned, David leaned close. I need to head out. Got a thing. She turned to him slowly. A thing? Today? It's important. Client emergency. He kissed her forehead, quick, perfunctory. I'll see you at home. He was gone before she could respond. Sophia sat alone in the empty chapel, staring at the flowers near the altar. Her mother's favorite, white lilies. That night, she went to her mother's apartment. The small one-bedroom where she'd lived alone for the past decade since Sophia's father had passed. The furniture was old but well kept. The walls were lined with bookshelves. Everything smelled faintly of jasmine tea. Sophia walked to her mother's desk, a simple wooden piece in the corner of the living room. She opened the bottom drawer, felt along the underside, and found it. A small brass key, taped to the wood. She held it up to the light. Stamped on the side, NVS 237. Okay, Mama, she whispered. I'm listening. North Valley Storage was a sprawling facility on the outskirts of the city, rows of orange metal units behind a chain-link fence. Sophia drove there on a Tuesday morning, the key heavy in her pocket. She found Unit 237 at the far end of the complex. Her hands shook as she unlocked the padlock and rolled up the metal door. Inside was mostly empty, just a few boxes stacked neatly against one wall, and a single filing cabinet. Sophia stepped inside, her footsteps echoing. She opened the first box. Papers. Lots of them. Stock certificates. Property deeds. Legal documents with names she didn't recognize. She opened the filing cabinet. More documents. Bank statements. Corporate filings. Letters from law firms. And, at the very back, a sealed manila envelope, with her name written on it, in her mother's handwriting. Sophia's hands trembled as she opened it. Inside was a letter. My dearest Sophia, if you're reading this, I'm gone. And it's time you learned the truth about who I was. I wasn't just a librarian, sweetheart. I was more than that, much more. My maiden name was June Harrington. My family was old money, very old, very quiet. But when I was 25, I refused an arranged marriage to a man twice my age. My family disowned me. I left with nothing. I met your father a year later. We built a life from scratch. I worked at the library because I loved books, not because I needed the money, because long before you were born, I started investing. Small at first, then bigger. I was good at it, Sophie. Better than anyone knew. I built something in the shadows, an empire. And I kept it hidden because I wanted you to grow up normal. I wanted you to know the value of work, of humility, of character. But now is yours. All of it. The documents in this unit represent controlling interests in 7 companies, real estate in 4 countries, and investment accounts you need lawyers to explain. Total value. Approximately $3.4 billion. I know that number doesn't feel real. It didn't feel real to me for a long time either. Contact the law firm listed at the bottom of this letter. They've been managing everything for years. They'll help you understand. But Sophie, listen carefully. Be careful who you trust. Money reveals people. It shows you who they really are. Guard yourself. Protect your heart. You are my daughter. You are strong, brilliant, and capable of anything. I love you forever. Mom. Sophia read the letter 3 times. Then 4. Then she sat on the concrete floor of the storage unit and read it again. Her mother, the woman who drove a 15-year-old Camry, who shopped at thrift stores, who always said they were comfortable but not rich, had been worth over $3 billion. Sophia looked at the documents again. Property deeds for buildings in San Francisco, Boston, Singapore, stock portfolios that made her head spin. Trusts and accounts with balances that didn't look real. At the bottom of the stack was a business card. Harrington and Vale, LLP. Estate Management and Trust Services. New York, NY. A phone number was written on the back in her mother's handwriting. Sophia pulled out her phone and dialed. A receptionist answered. Harrington and Vale, how may I direct your call? I need to speak with someone about the June Chen estate. There was a pause. One moment, please. The line clicked. A man's voice came on, warm and professional. Miss Chen, we've been expecting your call. My name is Robert Harrington. I was your mother's attorney and her cousin. First, please accept my deepest condolences. June was an extraordinary woman. Sophia's voice came out hoarse. You knew her. I did. She reached out to me 20 years ago to set up the trusts for you. Everything is in order, I assure you. I don't understand any of this. Of course not. It's overwhelming. Why don't you come to New York? We'll sit down properly, walk through everything, and make sure you're comfortable with the next steps. Sophia hesitated. I need some time. Take all the time you need. But Miss Chen, one piece of advice. Don't tell anyone about this yet. Not until we've had a chance to talk. Wealth of this magnitude attracts attention. Not all of it is good. Okay. Call me when you're ready. We'll arrange everything. When she hung up, Sophia sat in that small room for over an hour, staring at the documents spread around her. She thought about David, about the late nights, the missed calls, the way he looked at her lately, like she was an obligation, not a partner. Her mother's words echoed, be careful who you trust. Sophia gathered the documents, locked them back in the filing cabinet, and rolled down the storage unit door. She drove home in silence, her mind racing. Over the next 2 weeks, Sophia moved through her life like a ghost. She sorted through her mother's apartment, donated clothes, packed books. David barely noticed her grief. He came home late, left early, always with vague explanations. Client meeting, conference call, drinks with the team. She stopped asking. Then, on a Thursday night, everything shattered. Sophia came home early from her mother's apartment. She'd forgotten her phone and had driven back to get it. When she walked in, she heard voices upstairs. A woman's laugh. David's low murmur. Sophia stood frozen in the entryway. She climbed the stairs slowly, each step deliberate. The bedroom door was half open. Inside, David was in bed with a woman Sophia had never seen before. Blonde, younger, her clothes scattered across the floor. Sophia's breath left her body. David looked up, his face going pale. Sophia. She turned and walked back downstairs. Sophia. Wait. She didn't stop. She grabbed her keys and walked out the door. She sat in her car, shaking, her vision blurred with tears. Her phone buzzed. A text from David. We need to talk. She didn't respond. She drove to a hotel, checked in, and sat on the bed in the dark. The next morning, David was waiting at the house when she came back to get clothes. Sophia, listen, don't. I didn't mean for you to find out like this. She stopped packing and looked at him. How long? He didn't answer. How long, David? 6 months. 6 months. While her mother was dying. While Sophia was sitting in hospital rooms, holding her hand, saying goodbye. Sophia stood there, her suitcase half packed, waiting for him to explain, to apologize, to say something that mattered. Instead, David crossed his arms. Sophia, I want a divorce. The words hit her like a slap. What? I'm not happy. I haven't been for a long time. This, he gestured vaguely between them, isn't working. Vanessa and I, we have something real. Sophia's voice came out hollow. My mother just died 3 weeks ago. I know the timing isn't great, but I can't keep pretending. His voice was cold, rehearsed. My lawyer will contact yours. We can split everything down the middle. Keep it simple. Simple, Sophia repeated, her voice breaking. I'll come back for my stuff later. He grabbed his jacket. I'm staying with Vanessa now. And just like that, he was gone. Sophia stood frozen in the bedroom, staring at the door he'd just closed. Her phone buzzed. An email from David's lawyer. Already drafted. Already sent. He'd planned this. She sat on the edge of the bed, pulled her knees to her chest, and let the tears come in silence. Then, she opened her laptop and called Robert Harrington. I'm ready, she said, her voice steady. I want to come to New York. I want to know everything. The offices of Harrington and Vale occupied the top floor of a sleek building in Midtown Manhattan. Sophia stepped out of the elevator into a world of polished marble and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Robert Harrington met her in the lobby, a man in his 60s, distinguished, with kind eyes. Miss Chen, thank you for coming. He led her to a private conference room where a team of lawyers and financial advisors waited. For 5 hours, they walked her through everything. The companies her mother had quietly acquired, the properties spanning continents, the investment portfolios managed by the best firms in the world. Her mother hadn't just been wealthy. She'd been a financial architect, building an empire while living in the shadows. Your mother was very specific, Robert explained. Everything becomes yours upon her death. No restrictions, no conditions. As of 3 weeks ago, you are one of the wealthiest individuals in the country. Sophia sat back, overwhelmed. Why didn't she tell me? Because she wanted you to know who you were. Before you knew what you had, Robert said gently. She wanted you to build your own character, your own life, and she succeeded. By the time Sophia left, she'd signed dozens of documents, opened new accounts, and hired a team to manage the transition. She checked into the Peninsula Hotel, ordered room service, and sat by the window overlooking Fifth Avenue. Her phone buzzed. A text from David's lawyer. We'd like to move forward with the divorce settlement. Please have your attorney contact us. Sophia stared at the message. Then she opened her laptop and sent an email to her own lawyer. Proceed with the divorce. I'm not contesting anything. He can have the house, the cars, whatever he wants. I don't need any of it. She hit send. Tomorrow, she'd start building the life her mother had prepared her for. But tonight, she let herself feel it all. The grief, the betrayal, the anger, and beneath it, something new. Power. 6 months passed like a fever dream Sophia was only half sure had happened. She returned from New York quietly, moved out of the house she'd shared with David, and rented a small apartment downtown. She kept her same job as a junior architect at Morrison & Lang. She drove the same Honda Civic. She wore the same clothes. To everyone who knew her, she was just Sophia Chen, the woman whose mother had died, whose husband had cheated, whose life had fallen apart. But in the evenings, after work, Sophia sat in her apartment on video calls with Robert and his team. She studied corporate structures, investment strategies, market reports. Her mother had built something extraordinary, and Sophia was determined to understand every piece of it. She learned she owned controlling stakes in a pharmaceutical company, a logistics firm, and a boutique hotel chain. She owned office buildings in Boston and Atlanta. She had a private equity fund worth hundreds of millions. She controlled it all. Through Robert, she watched from a distance as David moved forward with his life. He'd moved his mistress, a woman named Vanessa, into the house. They posted photos online, smiling and carefree. It should have hurt, but it didn't, because Sophia knew something they didn't. Revenge wasn't about rage. It was about patience. The divorce was finalized on a Wednesday. Sophia signed the papers in her lawyer's office, her expression calm. David got the house, his car, and half their joint savings, about $18,000. He thought he'd won. That same afternoon, Sophia made her first move. She called Robert. David works for Grayson Partners, a consulting firm. What are their competitors? There was typing on the other end. Their main competitor in the market is Sterling Advisory Group. Mid-sized, about 40% smaller, but growing. They've been trying to compete with Grayson for years, but can't quite break through. Is Sterling for sale? Let me check. More typing. Privately held. Founder is 68. Looking to retire. Yes. They'd likely be open to the right offer. Buy it. Quietly. I don't want my name anywhere near this. Robert's tone shifted, understanding. And then? I'm going to destroy Grayson Partners from the inside out. 5 weeks later, the deal closed. Sophia, through a web of shell companies and trusts, became the sole owner of Sterling Advisory Group. David had no idea. She flew to Sterling's headquarters in Chicago and met with the executive team in person. When she walked into the boardroom, their faces showed surprise. They'd been expecting their new owner to be some faceless corporation or aging investor. Instead, they got Sophia. "Good morning," she said, taking her seat at the head of the table. "I'm your new owner, and I have a very specific vision for this company." The interim CEO, a man named Gerald Preston, leaned forward. "What kind of vision?" "We're going to become the #1 consulting firm in this market. And we're going to do it by taking everything valuable from Grayson Partners." She pulled out a folder and slid it across the table. "This is a list of Grayson's top performers. They are senior consultants with the best client relationships, the highest billable hours, the strongest portfolios. I want you to approach every single one of them with an offer they can't refuse." Gerald scanned the list, his eyebrows rising. "This is aggressive. I'm offering 40% salary increases, full benefits packages, equity stakes, signing bonuses, and flexible remote work. Grayson can't match that. They're too bureaucratic, too slow. This will cost us." "I have the capital," Sophia interrupted. "Trust me, I want Sterling to be the place where top talent wants to work. Better pay, better culture, better leadership. Start making calls today." Another executive, a woman named Diane, spoke up. "If we poach this many people, Grayson will collapse. They'll lose their institutional knowledge, their client relationships." "Exactly," Sophia said calmly. "That's the point." Over the next 3 months, Sterling executed Sophia's plan with surgical precision. One by one, Grayson's best consultants received calls from Sterling's recruiters. The offers were extraordinary. Salaries 40–50% higher than what they currently made. Benefits that actually benefited them. Leadership that listened. 12 senior consultants left Grayson in the first month. 8 more left in the second month. By the third month, Grayson Partners was hemorrhaging talent. Their biggest clients, who had relationships with specific consultants, not the firm itself, followed their advisors to Sterling. David watched it happen in real time. At first, he didn't understand. People were just leaving. Good people. The best people. Then he noticed a pattern. They were all going to Sterling. Sterling, which suddenly had unlimited capital. Sterling, which was offering packages Grayson couldn't compete with. Sterling, which was poaching with purpose. Within 6 months, Grayson Partners lost 60% of its senior talent and 70% of its major clients. The firm that had once been the leader in the market was now struggling to keep the lights on. David's workload tripled as remaining staff tried to cover for all the departed consultants. But without the relationships, without the expertise, they were failing. Projects fell apart. Clients left angry. Revenue plummeted. Then came the layoffs. Grayson's managing partners held an emergency meeting. David sat in the conference room with 20 other employees. All of them exhausted, all of them afraid. "We're restructuring," the managing partner said, his face grim. "Effective immediately. We're reducing headcount by 60%. David's stomach dropped. "If you're on this list, your employment ends today." Severance packages will be minimal, given our financial situation. David's name was on the list. He was escorted out that afternoon with a box of his belongings. And 2 weeks severance pay. Vanessa was waiting in the car outside. She'd been fired from ECLA 3 weeks earlier. Neither of them had jobs now. The wedding was cancelled. The house, David's house, had a mortgage they couldn't afford. "What are we going to do?" Vanessa asked, her voice shaking. David stared straight ahead, his jaw tight. "I don't know." Meanwhile, Sterling Advisory Group was thriving. With the influx of top talent, the company's revenue tripled. They landed contracts Grayson had held for decades. They expanded into new markets. Industry publications wrote glowing profiles. And Sophia remained anonymous, hidden behind layers of corporate structure. She attended board meetings via secure video, her identity protected. She watched the numbers climb, watched Sterling become the powerhouse she'd envisioned. She never mentioned David's name. She never had to. 6 months after the final layoffs at Grayson, the firm officially declared bankruptcy and dissolved. 30 years of business gone. David couldn't find work. His reputation was tied to a failed company. His network had evaporated. Recruiters stopped returning his calls. He burned through his savings in 4 months. Vanessa left him 3 months after that. She moved back in with her parents in Ohio, leaving David alone in an apartment he could barely afford, drowning in debt. With no prospects and no options. Sophia heard about it through professional networks, through the whispers that traveled through her world now. She felt nothing. No satisfaction. No triumph. Just a cold, quiet certainty that justice had been served. Meanwhile, Sophia wasn't finished. She called Robert one more time. "I want to establish a foundation, the Jun Chen Foundation for Women in STEM, full scholarships for underprivileged girls pursuing science and engineering degrees." "That's wonderful," Robert said. "How much are you thinking?" "Start with $75 million. We'll expand from there." Brief pause. $75 million? "Yes. I'll have our foundation team prepare everything." "And Robert, I want this public. I want my name on it. Are you ready for that?" "Once your name is out there, I'm ready." The announcement broke on a Tuesday morning. Sophia Chen establishes $75 million foundation for women in STEM. Miss Chen, recently identified as the sole heir to the Harrington fortune, plans to expand the program globally over the next decade. The story included Sophia's photo, professional, poised, powerful. Within hours, her phone exploded. Reporters, old friends, distant relatives, everyone wanted to connect. 2 calls didn't come. David and Vanessa. Sophia knew they'd seen it. Everyone had. She imagined them in that house, the house that used to be hers. Staring at headlines, realizing what they'd walked away from. She didn't call them. She didn't gloat. She simply moved forward. That evening, Sophia attended a gala for the city's Arts Council, her first public appearance since the announcement. She wore a burgundy gown, simple and elegant, and walked into the ballroom with her head high. People stared. Whispers rippled. But Sophia moved through it all with grace. Halfway through the evening, she saw them, David and Vanessa, standing near the silent auction tables. They'd been invited weeks ago, back when they were nobodies, trying to network. They saw her at the same moment. The color drained from both their faces. Sophia walked over, smiling. "David." "Vanessa." What a surprise. David couldn't speak. Vanessa's eyes darted around, like she was looking for an exit. "Sophia, I didn't know." David started. "About my mother. About the money." Sophia's voice was light. "Of course you didn't. That was the point. If I had known, you would have what?" Sophia's voice dropped, colder now. "Stayed, pretended to love me for my bank account. Instead of cheating on me while my mother was dying?" He had no answer. Sophia turned to Vanessa. "How's work?" Vanessa's face crumpled. "Sophia, Please, I'm sorry, we never meant. You did, though, Sophia said simply. You both did exactly what you meant to do. And now, you're facing the consequences. She stepped back. Enjoy your evening. I certainly will. She walked away, leaving them frozen. 1 year after her mother's death, Sophia stood in the penthouse she'd purchased overlooking the river, floor-to-ceiling windows, minimalist furniture, her mother's favorite painting on the wall. Her phone rang. Robert, just checking in. How are you? Good, Sophia said. And she meant it. Really good. Your mother would be proud. Sophia's throat tightened. You think so? I know so. After they hung up, Sophia sat at her desk. She had work to do. The foundation needed expansion plans. Her companies needed oversight. There were investments to review, strategies to refine, and a future to build. She thought about David and Vanessa sometimes, but not often. They'd made their choices. They'd shown her exactly who they were. And in doing so, they'd freed her to become who she was meant to be. The woman her mother raised. The woman who could survive anything. On her desk, framed, was the final line of her mother's letter. You are strong, brilliant, and capable of anything. Sophia had survived the storm, and she'd emerged not just intact, but transformed. She opened her laptop and began drafting an email to Robert. Let's triple the foundation endowment. I want to reach more girls. Girls who know what it means to start with nothing and build something real. She hit send. Then she stood at the window, watching the city lights flicker to life as the sun set. Somewhere out there, David and Vanessa were learning what betrayal costs. But Sophia wasn't thinking about them. She was thinking about tomorrow, about the students whose lives would change, the businesses she'd build, the impact she'd make. Her mother had given her more than money. She'd given her wisdom, strength, purpose, and Sophia wasn't going to waste a single moment of it. What would you have done in Sophia's position? Forgiven them, or made them pay? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you loved this story, smash that like button and subscribe for more incredible stories of justice and transformation. See you in the next one.